Happy Independence Day. I hope you enjoyed your 4th. A lot of you guys have been asking for more Mario videos, so we got one for you. The title's kind of confusing. Scouting Hill Country with Mario. I've always kind of wondered what goes on a turkey hunt with Mario, because he never seems to do real well killing turkeys. So in this video, I thought we'd follow him around on a turkey hunt. But as you can see by the name of the video, there wasn't much turkey hunting going on. It was more about scouting for deer. So let's travel along with Mario as he turkey hunts and see what we can learn about deer.
Alright, so Rob and I are out here turkey hunting. There's not much turkey action going on, so we decided to do a little scouting. On the top of the elevation is about 1,300 to 1,500 feet in elevation at the top of the hill. There's 2 large cornfields that border this. And then it makes a bench and it drops down in elevation right at the 1,100 foot line, where if you're looking on a topo map you can see the military crest line crossing. We get on a parallel trail. About 150 yards in the woods. If you look around in here, Rob, if you pan around, it's really thick and shaded in here. Today's a clear blue sky and bright sunny day, and it's shaded and clear in here. Now, right on this trail coming in here, we find a nice rub. Good hip height. Now, the deer could be standing down where Rob is there, so it could be a little bit lower. But this is a decent rub. Looks like it's been used, a couple years in a row. So now, as we get a little further, up here, I noticed that get around the corner, there's a large tree right there. There's a large tree, and I looked at the dirt below it, and I was like, I bet there's a bed underneath there. And you creep a little bit further, and you see another old rug on a smaller tree, and then some branches busted off that look fresher. It could have been branches from last year because it's on smaller sapling trees. So as we continue up this tree, see here you've got an old rub on this smaller tree, old split here, really thick in here, provides really good cover, right? Now, to our north, right up the field, when you hit that bench, it goes right up. There's oaks in here, and there's a lot of black walnuts, but it goes right up the hill, it flattens out into a bench, and then it opens up into a cornfield. And the predominant wind is kind of blowing a crosswind across this, so it's not directly at your back, but it's kind of a crosswind. Sure enough, we get a little further in here, and right next to the wall, he's got a branch that's busted off right here. And I start noticing that all the buds on these branches here, this is buckthorn right here. Deer like to eat down this buckthorn, especially in the later season, because it keeps its leaves for a long time. So you see all this stuff is browsed off. Any low branches are browsed right off. Here a little bit further, you can see all this is browsed off. Snap. Now it's not super worn down, but there's obviously a deer bedding here. You got one belly hair that we find right in there. So, right up against the tree. So obviously something been here. So just good little information. Get on those elevation lines, follow them through the property. Look for thick to back. If Rob pans and you look up in there, you get all this thick cover to his back. Buck can put his back up against this tree. He can smell anything coming over the hill. Danger there. I mean, this is a perfect spot. Basically shrouded. This drops down onto another bench where it opens up in a clearing and there's a lot of oaks down there. I'm going to keep following this trail. I think it's going to come out to where we found some other beds over there before. Watch out, you got one of those fun ivy vines growing forward. This is pretty worn down right here, but I can't see any hair like anything's been here recently. But it's worn down right here as well. Same browse sign. All this is bitten off. Here, here, here. This is all, tips are all bitten off of this. Again, it's just below the rise. You can kind of start to see the rise up there, how it just creeps down. So when you're thinking about this, about your setup, especially in a situation like this, you know, these deer are going to take this parallel trail or they're going to drop down into those oaks. So it's tough to hunt this from the top because the wind is coming down into these areas and your scent. You know, there's a logging road right there. If you go up and walk that logging road, right, and your wind carries down into here, they're going to have you busted. Now you've got a lot of cover down below, so you're better trying to hunt the bottoms on these things and finding where this exit trail sort of converges into the bottom. And you've got the same activity going down through here, and the trail cuts lower at an elevation. So anything with a big rack, you know, it's going to kind of navigate through here. It's not going to want to tangle its rack up and all this stuff. So now this just connected up with a lower trail that's coming again from the east. And if you look over there, there's another busted branch coming off the ground. You see how it's snapped right there?
Yep.
Or over there. And this is kind of a little corridor in the cave in here. Again, you've got a lot of browse going on underneath. Just start to see in there how it parallels this real steep drop off. It goes to a really steep drop off and then there's another bench there and then it drops off again. Some old rubs on some small trees in here, one there, one there. That was the one big rub back there that we saw. Otherwise, a lot of them have been pretty small. Pretty small.
That's probably the best one I saw.
But all this is browsed off. Typically, you see how this is all eaten off. This is another buckthorn.
Yeah.
This usually is green from the ground all the way up. So they're obviously bedding in here and feeding on all this buckthorn. And then they're dropping down into those oaks. So I'm willing to bet, like, this little access trail, I think that drops right down into that opening, to that logging area. This probably goes to where we,
those beds from earlier today. Is this the road we just came up?
Yep, this is the road we just came up. So those, like 2 or 3 beds in there, and that parallel line connects these two. It's a corridor that can run.
And those other beds, yeah, were there. And we came out on this trail earlier.
Yeah, and this trail goes all the way down, and those other beds are like over there around the corner.
Yeah. What about setting up in this opening?
I would think if the wind is coming over like this, and then your thermals are always going to drop back into you. It's just so thick in there, anything bedding behind you, you're going to have to come up this draw. But I would want to set up back in one of those trees if I was planning on hunting this run in those beds. Hoping that the deer are going to come this way and they're not going to drop straight down, but yeah, I would not want to walk to this point. I'd want to be up in back here where my wind's blowing off my backside, but I could shoot anything that came down that came across this to here. So I'd set up somewhere over there.
But with this trail running down, you could get to that from the bottom, right?
Yep. It's just a question of as you're walking up, if they're bedding on that other shelf. You know, you're playing a gamble game as to where the mature animals go. That's why setting up trail cameras high, real high up in a spot like this, on this, you'll start picking up traffic and what time of the day, and you can start figuring out, are they coming from that bedding area or that bedding area, and start making some assumptions. But obviously you can see all the oak leaves on the ground. On a good acorn crop, this is probably a primary feeding area.
Is that another trail there?
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a cool one there. You know, that's the thing, if you set up here, in any one of these trees, you know, you want to be able to shoot to that elevation point. So setting up back in here, and then back off, where you can just shoot to that point. This might not be bad, but you're not going to be able to take a shot to wherever that trail comes out. You have to come out and wrap around that one big oak right there and come down. And then you run the risk of your scent blowing right back into what we know is bedding. You know, is bedding right here.
Right.
So you might be better off setting up into here. Because from here, I could make that click there. That's like a 40-yard shot.
Right.
So with this cluster of trees and here, get up into there. And set up, you got good leaf cover. Shoot straight down. That's not a bad tree. Here's a bed. So here, right off the trail, up against the back of this tree, got a hair in here. So deer's probably laid out right in here like this, back against the tree. Or it could lay in here just like so. You can kind of see the kidney shape of it. Face out that way. So you can see compared to this, compared to some of those other spots we walked past, there's no
this ground cover isn't growing up where they're laying all the time and they're using it.
So we should mark this one again.
Gives you good reference points if you come up from the bottom to hunt it, or if you want to hunt a parallel trail, depending on where they're going to get up and walk to these oaks, because they got a lot of oaks in here that they can feed on. Starting to look a little bit better here. Now this trail is getting heavier. You can see it gets a lot thicker in there. You've got this buckthorn that's starting to overgrow the whole side of this hill. Which, I don't like buckthorn, but it does create food source and a better bedding, some better bedding food. This corner, this is at the corner of a field. We got a rise in elevation that goes up behind Rob, and then it drops in elevation right to this point, and you've got a big old oak tree right here. You can see the ground is just worn. Dirt is just worn down where there's been deer bedding in here. And you can tell this is being used recently. You've got all this long belly hair sitting in the bed fresh. Right now the wind is coming in from the direction that we walked in. It's kind of blowing in like this. And there's a primary trail that comes in off of the corner where the corn is, and it comes in right across here and drops in elevation. You got an exit trail that goes out the back side of this. Over here. Yeah, you can see right where this deer is bedding in here, laying its back up against this trunk. And they can see straight down into there. Now it's kind of funny because here is where a bed is located, and I just happened to notice the landowner's got a tree stand right there. I think cut branches. So obviously they're using this if they, bow hunt. They don't bow hunt, they're using this in the early season or during the fall. I think the landowner said that they primarily gun hunt here. But there's deer bedding 15 yards from where a tree stand is located. As me, I'd hunt this much differently. With the wind coming in here, it's kind of a tricky little access, but once we walk around a little bit more, we'll see how you might set up on this. You can see all this is snapped off and browsed. When this foliage isn't in here and it's clear, it'd be a lot different. I mean, it'd be naked from here to the opening of the field, but yeah, pretty interesting. Pretty interesting.
Got an old generational rub here, but this really starts to drop off. You can see this hairpin little trail that tracks right along the elevation.
Yeah, there's the barn.
That must be where the neighbor has his. I can hear water running.
It's that creek.
There's a creek down at the bottom of this.
It's the one that's been zigzagging through the property.
I really like this spot with the creek down there. This is relatively matted down here. I don't know if this... Oops, dropped it.
this little matted down spot. You got poop right there. So they're sitting in bed and right in this location. See this steep drop off? The wind is kind of flowing over here. You got the thermals coming up. Very cool little protected spot. Right here, the bed. The big old rub. He gets up and he rubs that. But it looks like an old one, nothing too fresh. I was gonna look down in that hole, see if maybe he walked out there and comes down, but doesn't look like much there. The way that the wind's blowing now, this whole thing would be the leeward side of this little hump. So again, if you come out to hunt it and you walk that field edge and you're looking to pick a tree on the edge of this, your scent's going to be blowing over the top of this hill the whole time. If anything's bedding in here, they're going to smell you. So your best bet is to try to get loop through the field and get all the way to the end of this thing. Going through the fields and access from the tip and set up on the tip to get them traveling this way out to the field on the elevation without getting your wind in here. Old rubs here. Trees are dead, so it's real old. It's kind of hard to tell how long ago they did that. No real big giant rubs though yet.
Well,
Hey, buddy.
spoke too soon.
That was a good one.
We just jumped turkeys. Oh. Oh.
Get him out.
Look at that over.
Hold on there, Mario. I'm a little confused here. Those were turkeys, right? And you're turkey hunting? Right?
Really good rub. That one was used last year. Barking this trail that runs straight down here parallel. Got another rub there. Heck, that buck might even bed there. It's so worn down right in that path. It might bed right in this worn down spot. So we're in here now. See that? Straight down from us is the bottom of this point. So a lot of times they'll like to cut that point. Or if there's a spot in there where they can traverse across as an intersecting point on these elevations.
You see how this goes back into there. So this shelf that forms all along here would be a great bedding spot. Because then it drops off at a steep incline and it's all thick right into here. And the wind kind of drops off over the back. You got a field right there, and then it really descends down about 1,000 feet in elevation all the way down to the low. That's the first real rub sign that we've seen up here.
Mm-hmm.
I know we gotta work in that direction, but I want to.
Yeah.
old hair. Oh, you gotta go say hi to your buddy. He's in there. Your buddy's in there. Cool. Go say hi to him. He's coming out right there. Right, cool. He's right there. Hey, buddy. Oh, there's babies in there. Oh, there's babies in there. Look at that little baby raccoon. Mama and her babies. Right in the trunk of the tree. How many are in there? 1, 2, 3, 4 heads, I think I see.
Mm-hmm.
But this is all browsed down. And that trail runs right down. Right out to that bottom where the logging road is. This trail comes right down. So you gotta remember if you try to hunt this, where that logging road is, a lot of people hunt right on that logging road. They don't realize these deer are bedding right here. And they're looking down into that road. So any movement in that open space, they're gonna pick up and they're not gonna come down.
Well, where have we seen all the stands today? Where have we seen all the stands?
Yeah.
Right on those logging roads.
Well, yeah, this is a nice little protected cove right here. So there's your ditch, your draw, and here's your trails coming up, and there's your elevation. So I don't just try to get back into something like that so that my scent drops down into that draw. And then I could pick up anything that's coming up out of there or traveling down from here. I could shoot to this trail, because if I come up here and sit too high, then all my thermals are going to drop into this.
Mm-hmm.
So as these deer are dropping down like this, they're going to wind me. Or if they're coming up, they're going to wind me. If I can get far enough back there and my wind's blowing over the top of that
Other side.
draw, then my thermals will pull down into that draw in the evening. We got a heavy trail coming right up out of here. This is all browsed off. I love those. Yeah, so as long as you had a crosswind that's going down into there, you're gonna get travel right like this. So that one tree I pointed out that's right there,
Mm-hmm.
you just gotta make sure your thermals don't drop this way. You want your thermals dropping to that side. Yeah. I mean, there's really no wind right now, but everything's kind of pulling this way. What do you think? You learning something? Or,
Well, I'm learning a lot.
or is it space science magic?
No, learning a lot. I'm just gonna sneak up here the weekend before you do. Or bribe the farmer with wood splitting help.
Yeah, and see, so we were up, if you look at this, Rob and I took the high trail all the way on the top that sits just below. It sits just below line of sight of the field on the crest. Then you drop down another 20 yards in elevation
and you've got this other trail that parallels this edge. It parallels this draw the whole way across. And I bet where that rub is, we found that rub about 50 yards up from here. There's probably a trail that drops straight down and crosses at some point in that draw to connect these two fields. Because this is going to come out, this comes out in this little nipple. That's the tricky part though with this. You get a swirling windy day and your wind is swirling like in this little bowl and opening, this kind of staging area. Those deer are coming up on the rise and they could potentially smell you. Honestly, I almost like that tree better, but you're kind of wide out, you know, wide in the open, but you're further back.
Yep.
Like though. Back in there.
Did
you hear?
No. So where would you go through that draw, or would you just come in from it?
Yeah, I wouldn't access through here. I wouldn't
No,
because I don't want to step across these trails.
So would you just go maybe down? I guess we'll see when we go down.
I'm gonna keep that secret for myself. Just mess with them. I
trying to
probably
ask
would.
good questions.
No, yeah, you should ask questions. I mean, in this scenario, knowing what I know now and knowing how the wind is blowing,
Right.
I'd be hard pressed to walk the rim of the high spot to set up somewhere along here, because I'd feel like one, line of sight, they're going to see me walking in because we found multiple beds below just the crest of this, and two, my wind is going to be blowing in there. So then with all these trails coming to a convergence right at this point coming out, you know, that's going to be all corn. I think I would get into the cornfield and scoot my way across the cornfield, then come down onto the tip of this.
Just work up this thick stuff.
Now it really depends what we see over there. We might find that there's bedding on the tip of that, especially if there's corn, but it looks like they're going to be bedded into this stuff because they got a lot of cover with all the undergrowth. And then I think this would press further and further back to that thicker, dense sidewall. It looks a lot thicker on this side too. This is a complete thick, dense cluster over here. Obviously there's deer bedding on that side because when I walked down there, you know, we just heard that doe blow. So there's bedding on that other side. And obviously if you set up in this tree, you know, you've got a draw trail that's coming up right underneath you, which makes it a little tricky. But you know, setting up in this tree, or setting up in that tree right there, your scent's going to be dropping down back here. So anything that comes down from this side and walks that rim, which looks like they might do, they literally could be coming down and dropping down right past you and not walking out to the field there. They could be dropping down to this draw and not turning and coming up it. So that's the other thing to think about. Think about destination. Like this ridge is way higher than the one we were just on. So I'm thinking they're coming down off of there, they're hitting in this, and this is one of the points they drop down on. So I would definitely have my stand facing, if I was going to hunt this and those bedding areas back there, have my stand facing and turning like this so I could shoot down into there and shoot those trails that were coming up high, because I would expect all the movement to come down this way. And it looks like there's a pretty well formatted trail that goes right out and spills out of the tip of this. And then it even looks there like that trail comes down and they cut into that grove and go out. Yeah, I mean, this is... And you could literally try to come and get set up in here. There's not many good trees, but this is going to be a spill out point too. Your scent is going to sit in this bowl. Everything's going to drop to the lowest point when you're in here. So at least if you're up higher, you know, you might spook some deer, but... And here's a trail coming down from here. Cuts this. Cuts in coming through here. I could see with this really lush grass in here, them staging in here for a long time.
What about
feeding.
something like over there? I know it'll still pull, but that would get them all the way to here possibly.
Right. The thing is though, if the wind's blowing over here, that sounds good, but right at dusk, all your thermals are going to drop right into this.
Right.
So you have to think about where they're coming from. And this is a long way to travel from that first bed.
Right.
So I would still want to be up a little further so I have a vantage point of a shot when they start coming out of those trails. I mean, I know we didn't walk out that way, but maybe one of these large poplars that are looking down in there,
We have a shot
could
in
get
there.
a shot to those trails. But again, being on this side of it allows your thermals to drop into this hole,
Mm-hmm.
which I could see them coming out of bedding and descending down to this and making their way on this trail. Because they're protected. You think about a mature animal, it's literally protected. You know, instead of popping out of the woods and going right out there, it's sitting in a below elevation shroud. All the scent
It's
from the
coming
surrounding
down.
area is all dropping into this low point. And you can literally walk this trail straight on out. So yeah, from up there you're gonna have, I mean, I get it, you know, thinking wise, you'd be able to shoot out to there, you'd be able to shoot to here, but you pretty much get one small window of opportunity. That
Like
spot
you
over
said,
there,
waiting for them to get all the way down from those first beds, which are what, 100 yards maybe from
Right.
at least where we are now.
right, and you only have, right here you only got one trail. Up there you've got 5 or 6 trails that converge
Right.
into a little plateau. You got deer coming from the bottoms bedding, and you
Yeah.
got deer coming from the top bedding. And all those trails
And
crisscross.
crossing from this side too.
Yeah. I would think what's going to happen is when they all drop out of bedding, the ones that are coming off of this ridge line, if they're going to drop down, they're going to come down and converge onto this trail.
Mhm.
The other ones are going to come down and converge onto this trail. And they're all going to meet here. Now we'll know a little bit more when we
Walk that edge.
get up and look on that high side. And Big Papa's going to sit right here in his little scent hole in bed. You like knocking over trees, huh?
It's not gonna fall.
You set up in that one? There's a nice
No.
bed right there. Show it. You can see where the deer sits right here. That kidney shape. It's got its back to the log. Its back is cover. The wind when we were coming in was angling like this. So it's not quite blowing over the top of this, but all the thermals or any scent from that field is going to drop down into this low bowl. The thermals are sent from that side are going to drop down into this bowl. Thermals from that side of the field are going to drop in. So think about it. So let's think Rob asked, you know, should I set up in that tree out there? This is what makes these spots tricky. If there's a mature buck bedding here, I mean, even my idea of coming into the tip or getting into the tip and just walking into there, there's a deer bedding here. You know, game over.
Then you go to hand grenades, start lobbing them in.
Well, just, and this might be a bed that they use during the early season when you got all this greenery in here. And then when this all drops off, they drop back further into those ridges that have a lot more buckthorn, prickly ash,
Stuff that's not
sumac.
going
There's
away.
a lot of sumac back on the back side of that ridge. It's a lot thicker. It's going to hold leaves and cover longer. So yeah, early season you might see them bedding here, and then you get the corn. The corn's going to be, you know, 5-6 feet tall.
Alright, back to turkey mode.
What?
I said, alright, back to turkey mode. Let's go creep in that field.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned a lot about hunting turkeys and a little bit about scouting deer too. Thanks for watching. See ya.